Welcome in, Falcons fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for your Atlanta Falcons 53-man roster show as they have made the cuts that were due earlier this afternoon. And now I'm going to give my thoughts on the initial 53-man roster. Obviously, this roster is still subject to change after these cuts just because a lot of teams are getting cuts, filming practice squads. Other cuts could still be coming to sign other players from that were cut. So we're going to get into maybe some of those possibilities when breaking down some of these rosters. We're going to go position by position here. So thank you for joining me and talking about the 53-man roster for sure. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. I'm not going to get into the list of cuts. You can see that on the Atlanta Falcons website, Twitter, whatever you have them on. And obviously Daniel Flick, Kevin Knight, guys like that in the community have been tweeting about it all day as well. If you want to actually see the cuts, I'll mention some of them in this breakdown. But let's go ahead, like I said, and get into it. So starting with the quarterback position, obviously the big thing here that a lot of people have pointed out is the fact that Tyler Heinicke is still on, not Tyler, I don't know why I keep calling him Tyler. Taylor Heinicke is still on the roster. A lot of people were confused by the decision. Obviously, if you remember, Taylor Heinicke a few weeks ago mentioned that he's seen the writing on the wall, which sounds like a guy who figured, okay, I'm probably going to get cut. He makes it to the 53-man roster. Now, a lot of people are saying, listen, at the end of the day, Taylor did not have a good preseason. If you watch the preseason games for the Atlanta Falcons, he was not good. When I was at camp for a couple of days, he did not take any reps for the first or second team. So Penix was very much penciled in very early as the number 2 guy. So the question was, what was going to happen at 3? Obviously, they had, I think, Nathan O'Rourke. I believe they had, who do they have? Let me see if I see it here. Cutting John Paddock. Taylor Heinicke is on the roster. Now, if there was a ruling recently that was made by the league to reject basically teams being able to put a third emergency quarterback on the practice squad instead of carrying them on the roster. And I don't know if that had any impact on this decision. It made me wonder, is that something that could have impacted this decision? Why the Falcons kept Heinicke in this situation? Because in that situation, if they approved that rule, you could maybe have a guy stashed on the practice squad who could be still your emergency 3 quarterback who could play if needed, if, like I said, for emergency situations. But because they rejected that rule, you have to keep your third quarterback on the roster, and maybe that's why. But obviously, Falcons could still continue or make another move, which still could lead to Heinicke getting cut. So I know a lot of people weren't very happy about it. In the realisticness of the spectrum, Heinicke's being on the roster really doesn't impact the team because unless a doomsday scenario happens and Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix goes down, Heinicke will not touch the field this season. So that's something you have to keep in mind as a Falcons fan when you're looking at that, is that it's not like this guy's going to impact the team in any way unless something bad happens, So that's what we're looking at right now with the quarterbacks on the roster. Going into the running back position, I was wondering going into it, were they going to keep 4 backs? Because they did in previous years because of Avery Williams' special teams ability. He has made the roster once again. Obviously, again, for his special teams ability, obviously mainly known in the punt return game for his impact for this team on special teams. But they also kept Jace McClellan, which I think surprised a couple of people. Some people were wondering if Carlos Washington Jr. would have made the team. It seemed like he may have had a stronger camp and a stronger preseason than Jace McClellan, even though Jace was the draft pick from this last draft class with the Atlanta Falcons. But he has made the team, and the Falcons will go into it with 4 running backs going into the season. I don't know if that surprised any of you guys. If that did, definitely leave your comments down below. Do you think Jace should have made the team? Do you think that Carlos should have made the team? Obviously, you would assume Carlos would go to practice squad unless he is signed somewhere else. And then, like I said, Avery Williams making the team for his special teams ability, which we'll mention multiple times about certain players who have made the team based off that part of football. The receiver position, Falcons going a little light, going with 5 receivers: Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod, Cordero Hodge, and Casey Washington. Some people wondered if Chris Blair was going to make the team. He had a very strong preseason, leading receiver in the preseason, also made some nice plays in camp, a guy who a lot of people were very high on coming into this preseason, and he was cut. So again, people are wondering, will the Falcons go and add to this group? A couple of names that have been released today: Justin Ross from Kansas City, Tony from Kansas City also has been cut. Noah Brown from the Houston Texans is another name who was also cut today. Tim Patrick from the Broncos, Martavius Bryant, just naming some names out there of some of the receivers who have been cut today as potential players the Falcons could look at to add to that position. We don't know, again, if another cut is going to come in the next coming days or hours, and then that leads to them making a corresponding move to that. But as of right now, they're going with 5 wide receivers, the 5 that you would expect to make the roster. I heard a lot of people kind of mention Cordell Hodge as a cut candidate. With his value on special teams, I kind of figured he wasn't going to be cut. Now, obviously, we don't know if Rondale was happy. Would that have changed things? Would that have just been their 6th receiver? And then you still would have these same names just with Rondale before going down with the injury. But as of right now, Falcons are going with 5 wide receivers right now going into the season. And we'll see if they add any other additions to that group. Tight ends is pretty self-explanatory. Kyle Pitts, we know he's going to be. Charlie Warner, he's going to play a big role for this team. All right. His blocking is going to be huge, especially with them running more 12 personnel this season. They're going to be big. He's going to be big. I mean, I remember when I was at camp, Caleb McGarry mentioned having Charlie Warner basically was like a blessing just because of his blocking ability. He can help if, they're going against an elite pass rusher. Again, week 1, you go against TJ Watt. They might put him on Caleb McGarry's side. Charlie Warner is a guy who can help out in helping block TJ Watt with Caleb McGarry and kind of keep him off Kirk Cousins in week 1. So he should definitely play a big role, and I'm excited to kind of see how that all formulates together. Offensive line, nothing really too crazy. Jonathan Gwynn, draft pick, has made the team. He was drafted, I believe, a year ago. Made the team. I think he had a good preseason, which was rightfully deserved. They went 9 linemen, so they got some depth back there. Storm Norton, Ryan Newsel, Kyle Hinton. My fault. And so, that's pretty self-explanatory with the offensive line. Really not too much to say there. Defensive line, we knew they were going to go heavy. Raheem told us they were going to go heavy with the D-line. They kept 9 defensive linemen: Grady, David, Tyquan, Zach, Eddie, Catravius Street, Rook Ororo, Brandon Dorless, and James Smith Washington. So they are on the team now on the D-line. Like I said, a lot of depth at that position, and probably the strength. One of the biggest strengths they have on this team is the defensive line. Their defensive line I expect to be very impactful in this new 3-4-ish scheme. I expect, again, you have so many bodies you can rotate in and out who can make plays for this team, and I think this defensive line is going to be really good. And even if the young guys don't play a lot this year, they get to learn behind guys like Grady, behind David, and just continue to grow as they're going to be part of the future of that defensive line for the Atlanta Falcons defense. Outside linebackers only keeping 4. Some guys projected they may keep 5. This is where you had a surprise cut. Damone Harris was cut by the team today. A guy that made some impressions on some of the journalists and people watching the Falcons preseason and also in camp. Had some reps with the ones earlier in camp, but he got cut today. Obviously, a practice squad candidate. Going with 4 outside linebackers: Judon Carter, Arnold Ebiketie, and D'Angelo Malone. Now, one thing that's interesting about D'Angelo Malone, because some people thought D'Angelo might be the one who's cut. D'Angelo Malone had a very strong special teams showing for the Falcons during the preseason. And again, special teams is important. It's a very important part of the game. And so since he showed up on special teams, that could be what got him the job over Damone Harris. And like I said, definitely a guy I could see the Falcons wanting to keep on the practice squad, wanting to keep him along and help him continue to just develop there. And obviously, if something happens at the outside line position, someone you can call up, you have trust in, that can come in and play some snaps for you. So a little less what it's looking like at the outside linebacker position. Inside linebacker is exactly what you would expect. Caden Ellis, Troy Anderson, Nate Landman, and J.D. Bertrand. So, you kind of expect it to be what it was. Caden, Troy, and Nate are going to be the main guys. You may see some JD at times this season as well, so I'm excited to see what that looks like. Corner is also another position where it was a little light. They kept AJ Mike Hughes, D. Alford, Clark Phillips, and Antonio Hamilton Sr., who had a very strong camp and deserved to make the roster. Some people were surprised they cut Kevin King again, going light, 5 corners. Some people think they would go with 6. Kevin King, is he a guy who could be a practice squad candidate? Maybe. I don't know. Is there another move potentially in the works for the Falcons? Maybe. I don't know. Some people are very interested to see if they're going to make a move there. We've heard rumblings that the Falcons may want to make a move there at some point. They just want to wait till after cuts to decide if they want to make a move there. I don't know what you guys think there at that position. Do you think the Falcons need to go and acquire another cornerback? Definitely leave your comments down below on that. A lot of people aren't high on Mike Hughes. We'll see how it goes. D'Alford, we know what he brings to the table. Clark Phillips, we know that he's a dog, and I'm excited to see how they use him. And then obviously Antonio Hamilton, like I said, he has been active in camp, has had a very strong camp, had a very strong preseason. Really excited for him to make the team, man, because he really did some good things. And obviously that led to Natron Brooks getting cut, which was another surprise cut for some people. He really had a really good game, especially in that Baltimore game. He had a really good preseason game there. Again, there is interest, according to Daniel Flick, on potentially going to the practice squad. So he may not be done with the team just yet, but he is not made the 53-man roster. So again, could that be a move they made because they knew they were going to make another addition to the unit? We'll have to wait and see. I know a lot of people were shocked that Brooks did not make this roster. And listen, he's a guy who second year in the system really has shown growth, shown development, and could be a gem, just like D'Alford was for this team. So we'll have to see what happens with him and if he actually is retained by the Atlanta Falcons and put on the practice squad with the team. Getting into the safety group, you got 4 safeties: Bates, Simmons, Grant, and Abernathy. Now, I would like to point out that DeMarco Helms was placed on injury reserve with designated to return. So clearly, he is not out for the year. DeMarco Helms will be back. So I would not be shocked if whenever that happens, if Abernathy is cut by that point. We'll have to see. We don't know when he'll be back, but definitely a possibility he could be back. I know a lot of people were kind of, and I got to make this point because it's kind of funny. Obviously, yes, as fans, we have players that we like and we don't like. I know a lot of people were out on Richie Grant after last year. And some people are sitting here saying, well, why is he still on the team? Why wasn't he cut? Again, guys, I know that you hate what you saw from him last year. But Richie Grant, during this season, off-season, preseason training camp, has not done anything warranting him getting cut. Remember, he wasn't playing with the rest of the starters. So that, and some of the second team guys, that should tell you how the team feels about him. Plus, again, you just lost DeMarco Helms. Because some people made a mention, well, why don't you keep Brooks and cut Grant? I do realize Brooks is a cornerback, right? You're cutting your safety to add another corner. So we're just going to go into the season with 3 safeties. God, if one of them goes down, Simmons or Bates, you have no depth. So, guys, I know if you hate Richie Grant, you hate Richie Grant. That's fine. You have the opinion to dislike and like a player. But Richie Grant has not done anything in these camps or in camp, because that's the only time we've seen him, to warrant him being cut, right? And he's not even going to be a starter. He's a backup who may play third safety depending, again, on schemes and packages. So you got to move past last year when it comes to him. You have to move past that. He knows what he did last year. In camp, he hasn't done anything like that has been warranting praise, because he hasn't done anything crazy, but he hasn't done anything bad that's warranting criticism. So for the people who want Richie Grant cut, just take a chill pill for a second. All right, let's get into the games. First time we'll see him in live action. We'll see how we feel about him. Okay, you guys ready to get him out of here and cut him? He ain't did nothing warranted to get cut. You can't say you're gonna cut a player the next following preseason because of what he did last year. So, and obviously we've heard Raheem Morris very high on Richie Grant. So, but outside of that, and obviously, kicker punter, Bradley Pinion, Younghoe Koo. So that is what we're looking at. Obviously, a couple of notable cuts. Zion Logue, draft pick from this class, was cut. Laquelle London also cut. Jesse Matthews cut. A couple of guys like that. maybe those guys hit the practice squad, which obviously is the saving grace for a lot of these guys. And also, uh, you know, I think I believe tomorrow at noon is when they can start signing guys to practice squad. So we'll start seeing who they actually end up keeping as we go on. But that was your 53-man roster after cut downs for the Atlanta Falcons. Definitely let you guys leave your thoughts down below. Let me know what you guys think. What cuts surprised you? What cuts didn't surprise you? Are there players that have been cut that you would like to see the Falcons take a waiver on potentially and bring him into the team and everything under the sun? So definitely let me know below what you think. Definitely subscribe to the channel for more Falcons content, like the video and all that. Follow me on Twitter at Bryce_2K. This is your Atlanta Falcons 53-man roster wrap up. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. We'll see you next time.